Apologies that this took so long to come back. Oh my god, this is just textbook me. Whenever I start a new venture, it just goes. Yeah, I'm not actually sure what the purpose of this video is. I'm gonna wing it. This is my excuse for being a month late. I'm currently in the process of making a video about teaching in Japan and what that entails, what it's like, and I've got some absolute gold, courtesy of the textbooks that we use in Yokohama specifically. And yeah, there's some tragic stuff in here, I'll tell you. But yes, I'm trying to get pieces of it put together and make it a bit more informative than me just sitting here talking about it. I might even be able, with my school's permission, to film in the school I teach in, because the school I teach in is very casual and nice. Not in a bad way, they are super nice and accommodating, so I don't think they'll actually be against it, and that would be, very rare, because it's not often you're allowed to do that, because you have to get each kid's parents' permission to film in case they're on camera, and yeah, that would make it a lot better. So it might take a long time for that video to come to fruition, but it will be hopefully very informative and entertaining when it does, because my school is very unique compared to what I've heard from other people in my position. You know what? I'll make this video a kind of first half of living in Japan and what life's like. I'll put a bit more effort into the second one and actually go out and record stuff, just because I just want to put something out for the sake of not being just a horrible person. You know what? I'll do pros and cons. That's a nice easy one, isn't it? Okay, so I'll do pro first. Okay, so big pro about Japan, food. Now, the UK is not particularly renowned for its food, at least I hope it isn't, because it's crap. Japan, however, game changer. You know what? I've got so many photos of food, because every time I go out to eat, it's presented to me like I'm a king. So I've got a photo of pretty much every meal I've eaten in Japan. Food is so cheap in Japan, or eating out is so cheap in Japan. So like, in the UK, if you go out and get like a pizza, for example, it's going to cost you about 12-13 quid, okay? Quid. 12-13 pound. Whereas here, you go out and get the equivalent, maybe not a pizza, but something similar, and it's about £4, maybe 5. And again, it's presented nicely. It's probably nicer, to be fair. And it just blows my mind. Food is, a game changer here. Food is so good here. Okay, a con about Japan. This one's a bit of a double-edged sword. So, being a foreigner in Japan, it's almost like being a celebrity. Especially if you're somewhere rural, where they might not have ever seen a foreigner before. So I live in Yokohama, which again is the second biggest city in the entire country. And most people here are used to seeing foreigners. So they don't often, make remarks or anything. People still stare, don't get me wrong. People stare every day. And I have a friend in my current circle of friends who's also a teacher. He's British, but his family are from Egypt. So he gets some looks, I'll tell you. But I'd say it's more of a con than a pro, because people are reluctant more than they are excited about the prospect of a foreigner, I think. There have been times where me and my friends, and we're all foreign, have attempted to walk into a restaurant, and one of our friends speaks fluent Japanese, and the waitress, in fewer words, basically told us to go away because she didn't want to serve foreigners. Another thing that happens a lot is trains. Oh my god, when you're on trains. So, at the moment, with all the coronavirus hype, I'm wearing these, which are like the face masks that you wear. Like that, yeah? And it's very normal to prevent spreading disease and contracting it. But when people see foreigners wearing masks, I think they think you're criminals. Because I get on a train and the whole carriage just goes... It does have its benefits, being a foreigner. Sometimes people will approach you and talk to you, just for the sake of talking to a foreign person. And specifically in the job I do, being a foreigner is amazing in school, because 70% of the students are enthralled by you. Like, I've been at my school for just over a year, and some of my students still scream when I enter the room, and I thought that would stop after a couple of weeks, but it didn't. And there are still a couple of girls who fawn over the idea of a person with blonde hair and green eyes. So again, it's a bit of both, this one. I'd say it's more a con though, just because outside of school, it's more common that people are going to be discouraged by the fact that you're a foreigner, or reluctant to do things or talk to you or help you because you're a foreigner. A lot of these are pro-con thing, but I'd say this is more a pro than anything else. So, kindness. People here, Japanese people, 95% of Japanese people are so kind, I can't really explain it. It's like being in a movie where you saved a building full of children that was on fire. The building was on fire, to clarify, not the children. And you saved all the children. And everyone reminds you of it daily. I don't remember the last time I ran into a Japanese person who was just not nice. Just doesn't really happen. I usually stand up on trains to avoid the awkwardness of sitting down and everyone near you kind of flooding away slowly. This one time I was sitting down, I think I'd probably had a long day. I was walking around a lot and I was like, I just want to sit down. So I sat down and I had my earphones out and I was listening to music, and I remember like taking them out because I think I had a cold, so my ears were hurting or something. I left them on my seat and I got off the train. And about 45 seconds after the train had gone, I realised I'd left them, and I was like, oh, okay, sorry, I'm not going to get them. So I waited at the station for a friend because I was going to meet someone. And I was on my phone messaging my friend like, oh, and then about 10 minutes later, I was waiting because my friends are always late. This random Japanese woman comes up to me, maybe in like her 40s, and I was bewildered and a bit terrified because when people come up to you and they're speaking Japanese, you're just like, oh god, what have I done? And she came up to me with my earphones. I didn't quite confirm it. I'm almost certain this is what happened though. I feel like she must have gone one station over, got off the train, got on the train coming back, come back just to give me my earphones. Returning items is a big thing here. So if you lose something, you are almost guaranteed to get it back. Like in the UK, if you lose money, someone's taken it. So I was at Universal Studios. Don't know how I did this, because this is beyond me. But I managed to lose my phone inside the park. So I went in and I was talking to this woman, and she was asking me to describe my phone, because obviously I could have just walked in and said a phone, and she would have given me someone's like iPhone, and I could have just taken it and gone. So she disappears for about 10 minutes, and I'm like, well, this isn't good, because she's probably just wasting time until I leave, kind of getting the idea that she's not got it. And she comes back with this red velvet cushion with a little kind of piece of like cloth over the top, but there's nothing on it. And she placed it in front of me, and she was like, we're going to count down together, okay? And we count down 3, 2, 1, and then she lifts this little velvet cover off, and there is my phone on a velvet cushion, something you'd find like the royal family's crown jewels on. But people who are very kind, they're very helpful, they'll go out their way to help you. On the flip side of this pro, the kindness, the con side, if you're having a conversation with someone, or you ask someone a question and you want a definitive yes or no answer, that isn't really going to happen. Example, my friend who is a teacher, his third grade students, because they are graduating soon, they are going on a trip to Disneyland as their kind of like end of year reward thing before they go off to high school and work their asses off. He's very in with his school. He's good friends with his teachers, his students adore him. And he asked if he could go on the trip with them. He's been on trips with his students before. Didn't seem like it was a problem. And he asked, and every single answer he got was something along the lines of, or maybe it is difficult. A restaurant, if like they have seats free, if they have room for your party, so there's 5 or 6 of us, and if they don't, they'll go, and they'll just hum and and ah until you pick up that they're trying to tell you to go away. So again, they are very kind on one side of it, but on the other side, they're very indirect and passive. So getting answers out of people here is really difficult when you just want a question to be answered yes or no. Con. Technology. Now this is going to be a strange one because I know a lot of people think that Japan is super tech savvy. Let me tell you, it's not. To put it into perspective, I work in a school. In the staff room, there is more paperwork than I've ever seen in my life. Ever. Everyone has their own laptops from probably like the mid-90s, pushing early millennium if you're very lucky. And the best part of it all is the most valued piece of technology in the entire school is the fax machine. Now in the UK, fax machines stopped being used before I was born, I'm pretty sure. At least I've never seen one. So I'm 24 and I had not seen one until about 10, 11 months ago. And my company, the way they clock your work hours is you have a timesheet that has each day you're in and the hours you should be working. And you'll love this. So most places you have like a time card, right? You like clock in and it will digitally register the time you clock in and clock out, and the same thing as you leave. Or maybe, you even come in and like write it on a board, something like that. I don't know. Not in Japan. And you have to approach your principal or vice principal with this piece of paper. And I'm not kidding. You have to ask them for a stamp. That's it. Each day you're there, you have to get a stamp. So there's about 20 to 23 stamps each month. It gets worse. So once you've got your 23 odd stamps, you fax your worksheet. That's right, stamps and fax in the year 2020. Pro. Public transport. Oh my god. I never thought I'd utter the sentence, I like trains, but I do. In the UK, trains often have corpses, drunk people, loud people, sleeping people, prices. Oh my god. So I lived in a small town near Cambridge in the UK, and I was about 40 minutes away from London. It cost £23 to go one way there. So it's about £50 to go there back in a day, right? That's a lot of money for such a short distance. In Japan, I live about the same distance away from Tokyo. It costs me 670 yen. So that's £4.50-ish, £4.50. A fifth the price of trains in the UK. And the best part is, trains in Japan, cleaner, faster, nicer. There's literally no benefit to getting public transport in the UK over Japan. The best thing about public transport here though, it is always on time. The only time there's a delay is when there is like a serious problem, like a fault on the tracks or a passenger is injured or something like that. Every other time they are like to the minute, maybe even to the second sometimes. But yeah, I hope you will tune in for the next one, which will be like a second part kind of thing of this. And I'll try to be a bit more consistent with the uploading. I won't wait a month till the next one, that I promise. Like I'd like to do this weekly really, because these don't take very long to make. Thank you for watching if you did. I'll see you in the next one. Swarming away from me, which they do if you're foreign, and you try to sit down on them. Now, in the UK, fax machines were stopped being used. Not only are the people on trains horrendous in the UK. Now, in the UK, fax machines were stopped. But yeah, beyond that, I will try and keep pumping the videos out a little bit more consistently than once a month. Because at least, yeah,